The first order of business for 1984 was the filming of the two Pepsi Cola commercials. Michael was still unhappy about the endorsement, especially when the Quaker Oats Company offered to support the Jackson store with a sum that was 4% more than offered by Pepsi Cola. Though the contract was already signed with Pepsi, John Branco did try to get Michael out of the agreement. However, Catherine has asked by Don to talk some sense into Michael. The Pepsi deal was back on. From the beginning, it was understood by everyone involved that Michael would have complete quality control over the commercials. His brother could have no say about the footage, which was fine with them. They were being paid a hefty sum to do the commercials and were satisfied. After a few meetings with Michael, the Pepsi Cola executives were worried. As it happened, Michael's friends Paul McCartney and Jane Fonda had told him he had made a mistake in agreeing to the commercials because the result will be overexposure for him. Michael said that one way to rectify the problem was to make sure his face would only be on camera for one close up and only for a maximum of 4 seconds. In other words, he wanted to make a cameo appearance in his own commercial. And for that, Pepsi would have to pay $5 million. There are other ways to shoot me, rather than push a camera in my face. Michael insisted to three accessory PepsiCo executives in the meeting at his home. Use my symbols, shoot my shoes, my spats, my glove, my look, and then at the end, reveal me. He offered to allow the Pepsi executives use of Billie Jean, for which he would write new Pepsi jingle lyrics. Michael wasn't trying to get out of the deal, he just wanted the commercial to be special. If he was going to do them, he decided he may as well be worthwhile. When Michael met with Roger Emerson, President and Chief Executive Officer of the Pepsi Cola Company, he told him, Roger, I'm going to make Coke wish they were Pepsi. Though trying to be a team player, Michael still had reservations. I still don't have a good feeling about it, he said about the Pepsi endorsement. In my heart, I feel it's wrong to endorse something you don't believe in. I think it's a bad omen. He shrugged his shoulders and added, but I guess I just gotta make the best of it. On Friday, January 7th, 1984, the time had come to film the commercial. 3,000 people were seated on the Shrine Auditorium in Los Angeles in order to simulate a live concert audience. The Jacksons were to perform You're a Whole New Generation, which were special lyrics to the music of Billie Jean. Prior to one of the takes, the brothers were preparing themselves for the shooting, adjusting their outfits, put on their makeup, and then Michael had to go to the bathroom. Go ahead, use mine, Director Bob Giraldi suggested. Don't worry, I'll just be a minute, Michael said. He went in and closed the door. 30 seconds later, a blood-curdling shriek came out of the bathroom. Jesus, what happened? Bob Giraldi started banging on the door in alarm. Michael, are you okay? When Michael slowly opened the door, Bob and a bunch of others rushed into the bathroom. I dropped my glove, Michael said, embarrassed. Where? Asked Bob. And there, Michael said meekly. He pointed down in the toilet bowl. Floating in the water was a lone, white, right-stone glove. Oh, okay, Bob said, trying not to burst out laughing. Somebody get a hanger or something. We'll just have to fish it out there. Everyone scared out in search of a hanger. Finally, Michael said, oh, forget it. He reached out in the toilet and pulled out the soaking wet glove. Does anyone have a hair dryer? It had been a long day. All the brothers except Michael had arrived at 9 in the morning. Tito acted as his brother's stand-in, taking Michael's place for the purpose of camera angles and other technical positioning. Michael, the star of the show, would not arrive for hours. By about 6 p.m., the group performed their number for the sixth time that day, this time so that Bob Girardi would make technical adjustments. Finally, tape began rolling at 6:30, as he had done during each rehearsal. Michael began to descend from a podium by going down a staircase amid brilliant illumination. His brothers were lined up on the stage. plane, a smoke bomb, and pyrotechnics exploded. As planned, militarily blocking Michael from view. First a pose, that unmistakable silhouette. Then a magnesium flash bomb, which went off with a loud bang 2 feet from Michael's head. As Michael headed down the stairs, the smoke became thick. Something wasn't right. He began to dance. He did a turn and another. After spinning 3 times, he popped on his toes. He was hot, literally. When he turned, there was an audible gap from the audience. The explosion had set his hair ablaze. He would later remember feeling the heat, but said he thought it was generated by hot stage lights. He continued to perform, but not for long. When he felt the burning pain, Michael pulled his jacket over his head and fell to the stage floor. Tito! Tito! He yelled. Bob Girardi recalled the film will later show that while his hair was burning, he was trying to get his jacket off. Maybe he thought it too was on fire. He did 2 quick spins, though, and put out the fire by his own force. The first to respond was Michael Brando, Marlene's 22-year-old son and one of Michael's security staff. I ran out, hugged him, tackled him, and ran my hands through his hair, reported Brando, who burned his fingers on the process. For a few disturbing moments, no one seemed to know that had concern or how to respond to it. There was chaos and pandemonium. Jimmy would later say he thought Michael had been shot. The crew rushed onto the stage, threw him down, and covered his head with a blanket to put out the fire. After a handful of ice was applied in a t-shirt board to make a cool compress, Michael was taken off the stage. When Michael was taken away and did not return to the stage, it was difficult for the authorities to keep the crowd calm and orderly. Screams filled the auditorium since no one in charge could give an accurate report. Audience members began to develop their own theories. Most believed that it had been an assassination attempt on Michael. In order to avoid fans and news media, the authorities hoped to transport Michael through an exit from the back of the theater. However, Michael insisted on exiting where the crowds and photographers could see him. He said they wanted to be able to show the assembled crowd that he was alright. In truth, though, he also knew a moment when he saw one coming. No one could ask for better public relations. No, leave the glove on, he told the ambulance attendants, and he was being prepared for the stretcher. The meeting is here. No matter the pain, shock, or hysteria, the showman prevailed. The videotape of Michael being loaded onto the ambulance became the lead story on all news broadcasts that evening. There he was, strapped in the stretcher covered up to his nose, his bandaged and taped head resting on a pillow. One sequin glove hand protruding weakly from blankets. Michael lifted his hand with that appeared to be his very last bit of strength, and waved to the cameras. If E.T. hadn't come to Elliot, he would have come to Michael's house. Steven Spielberg said earlier said Michael. Now Michael was E.T., an odd little creature hurt by grown ups who had been playing with fire, being carried away to who knows where and who knows whom and for who knows what purpose. Excuse me. As he was being wheeled out, as he will later tell it, he noticed several Pepsi executives huddled together with anxious expressions. They must have realized that the accident would become the catalyst for one of the biggest lawsuits in show business history. Michael Jackson would own Pepsi by the time the smoke cleared. The next day, photos of Michael as ET were on the front pages of newspapers all over the world. Michael would call it that famous shot of me. Michael was taken to the emergency room at Sinai Medical Center where he was treated with an anti-stomach cream and bandages. He was offered a painkiller, but because of his disdain for narcotics, he turned it down. Soon, though, he realized he needed it and accepted one. Then, accompanied by Joseph and Catherine, Bill Bray, his brother Randy, and his doctor Stephen Hoffling, Michael was transported to Brotman Memorial Hospital in Culver City. I attempted to get an interview with Catherine and Joseph as they rushed into the hospital arm in arm. How do you feel about this? He asked. Catherine kept walking, but Joseph stopped. He glared at me. That's my son in there, he said, quite upset. How do you think I feel? How does any other feel when his son is hurt? You and Michael have your differences, though, I observed. Joseph stared at me for a moment. Hey, man, do you have any kids? I shook my head no. They can't understand how you feel. Whatever happens, a father will always be a father. His son will always be his son. All right? Michael spent Friday evening in room 3307, resting in a short time. Though he was bored and asked for a videotape player, because no one in the staff had the key to the cabinet where the hospital's video equipment was kept, someone broke the padlock to get Michael a machine and an assortment of tapes. He chose a science fiction film, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, directed by his friend Steven Spielberg, and watched it until he fell asleep at 1 a.m. after taking a sleeping pill. Outside his room, Catherine, Jack, Joseph, and Bill Bray prepared to go home. They looked relieved. It had been a tense, exhausting experience. Joseph noticed a group of Pepsi executives standing together, still looking upset. As he walked by them, he asked, Why the long faces? Geez, the burn's only the size of a $half. Michael had been fortunate. His face and body escaped injury in the accident. He suffered a palm sized patch of second and third degree burns on the back of his head. Only a small spot, smaller than a $half, actually more like a quarter, received a third degree burn. Doctors said most of his hair will grow back. Ironically, Michael had visited bird pages at the same time on New Year's Day. He had been particularly affected by one patient, 23-year-old mechanic Keith Perry, who had suffered third-degree burns on 95% of his body. Michael had had photos taken of himself holding the patient's hand with his sequin glove. When asked why he was wearing the glove, Michael responded, This is this way I am never off stage. The photos were quickly distributed to the media. By Saturday, according by nursing supervisor Patricia Levis, Michael was singing in the shower. He spent the morning watching American Bystand and Soul Train on television when he wasn't talking on the telephone, Diana Ross recalled. As did Lisa Manila. Michael was recalled later that day, according to Levis, before he left the hospital. Michael, wearing turquoise hospital scrubs over his street clothes and a black fedora covering his wound, went from room to room saying goodbye, taking photographs and signing autographs for the other burn patients. After being released from the hospital, Michael checked into the Sheridan Universal for a night in order to be away from his family. John Bracken met him there. Mike, I think God is trying to tell you something about this commercial, John told him. We should never have done that. I know, Branca. You know what? You've got John King to thank for this, John added. Look, don't remind me, Michael said. He was clearly disgusted. That evening, Michael, Steve Hoffling, who had performed Michael's rhinoplasty surgery and is chief of plastic surgery at Brockman, and others on the Jackson Outreach, including John Branco, watched a videotape of the accident to determine just what happened. As soon as the accident occurred, John's partner, Gary Stuffelman, seized the tapes from the cameraman. Pepsi didn't have any footage at all. Michael had it. After Michael saw the tape, he became enraged. I could have been killed, he said. Do you see what they did to me? Did you just see that? Man, I can't believe it. Though the others tried to calm him down, it was useless. Show it again, Michael ordered. Someone popped the tape back into the VCR and everyone watched. That's it, Michael said. I want the tape released to the public. I want the public to see it. I'm gonna ruin Pepsi. After my fans see this tape, Pepsi will be history. But Mike, one of his associates began. No, I'm serious, Michael said, cutting him off. Release the tape. I want other news right away. I want everyone to see what happened to me. And I want release on Monday. Pepsi's gonna be sorry. You can't do it, Mike. You want to bet? I sure can, Michael insisted, and I'm gonna too. By Sunday, word on Michael's decision to put got back on Roger and Rufino, president of Pepsi Cola. John Brecker showed me the tape. Did the press reporters say his hair was on fire? Roger later recalled saying, to me, it looked like his whole head, like a human torch. No way can anyone see this footage. It's grotesque. Roger knew he had to change Michael's mind or knew Michael Jackson fan on a plane would ever drink Pepsi after what they saw. What Pepsi did to him. With more anxiety than I ever felt in my life, and Reno telephoned Joseph Jackson to ask what should be done about this problem. What problem? Jackson asked. Michael wants to release the film with his hair on fire. Why do you want to do a thing like that? Joseph asked, perplexed. Roger didn't know the answer to that question. He would only assume that Michael wanted revenge. He told Joseph that if Michael allowed the film to be released, people would always associate him with the Burt accident. The way he said the public equates the Zimmer assassination with President John F. Kennedy. Joseph didn't know what to say. Try telling Michael what to do these days. He said, there's no way. He does what he wants to do. All I can say to you, he concluded, it's a luck. The tape will be released early the next week. Michael finally decided he was bent on revenge. It would have been distributed sooner, except that his associates were able to locate a lab that could process the film on Sunday at such short notice. First to whet everyone's appetite, a blurred photograph of Michael descending the stairs with his hair on fire. It looked in the photo as if he had a halo. Was distributed by the Associated Press. It made the front pages of practically every daily newspaper. After that photo was released, John Brega felt that Michael had gotten ample time to cool off, and he tried to talk Michael out of releasing the tape. It's morbid, Mike, John told him in a meeting with his associates. Don't do this to your fans, and besides that, I think we should just sell with Pepsi and go on with our lives. Why infuriate everybody, Mike? Why not? Michael wants to know. Come on, Mike, you're bigger than this, John said. Michael cracked a smile. I'm being dumb, huh? He asked sheepishly. He recognized his own petulant behavior. You're right, he told his lawyer. Let's just end this thing, but I want them to pay Bronca. I mean it. They should pay big time for this. Though Michael was only paid $700,000 to do the Pepsi commercial, the publicity he received because of the accident would prove inevitable. It triggered an outpouring of public sympathy from around the world. The hospital where he first taken for the treatment was even forced at 6 volunteers to answer telephone calls from fans and well wishers. At Brutman, thousands of calls, letters, and cards are received. Even Ronald Reagan got an act with a fan letter to Michael dated February 1st, 1984. I was pleased to learn that you were not seriously hurt in your recent accident. I know from experience that these things can happen on set, no matter how much caution is exercised. What really made Mike off, recalled Steve Howell, was when attorneys for Bob Girardi, producer of the video, tried to put the blame for the burn on the hair grease Mike used. He said that this product was responsible for his hair catching fire. He thought Giraldi was his friend and wondered why he would do such a thing. The stuff he uses, the stuff he uses on his hair, he told me, like everybody else uses on his body, 100% natural, no chemicals. When Michael got home to the Encino compound, one of the first things he did was call Steve Howell. Can you come up here and set up the video equipment in my room so I can watch the Three Stooges? That afternoon, Michael took a spin around the property in his electric car. A close copy of the vehicle, Mr. Charleswell rode Disneyland from the street. Outside the gate, his fans, who were always there, could see him whizzing up and down the driveway like a little boy, so happy that his mothers had finally let him out to play. After he put away his expensive toy, Michael playfully tossed the guy he wore in the hospital over the gate to the fans. Until his death, Michael experienced some pain in his scalp where he was burned. I knew I could have sued them, Michael wrote of Pepsi in his book Moonwalk. Though most people felt it was probably the production company, not Pepsi, that was responsible. But I was real nice about it. Well, he wasn't that nice. At Michael's request, John Berger pressured Pepsi Cola into a monetary settlement. He won $1.5 million. The company argued that the sum was way too high. They would pay, but the accident wasn't even their fault. They blamed the production company. How about a half mil? One of the suffering lawyers suggested. Finally, under a threat of a lawsuit, Pepsi Cola paid Michael $1.5 million. Michael Jackson accepted the money, then donated it to the Michael Jackson Burn Center, which had been established in his honor at Brockman after the accident.